Altman said about Robert last time he was nominated that he's the greatest actor of his generation. And there is no question, that Robert is the greatest actor of his generation. And what he's done over these last 10 years, that the performance in Endgame is a profound performance that deeply moved people around the world on a scale that we, I think, have never seen before. So if that doesn't deserve a nomination, I don't know what does.
It's
We
all
put
about
all of them on a board, and we took some darts.
this
and we
one,
just
yeah.
threw them, and whoever it landed on.
It's basically a
that was it.
process of just stepping through the narrative and figuring out where these characters are taking us in this specific film, what journey they've been on since their beginnings in the MCU, and how do we sort of pay off those arcs in the most surprising and satisfying ways. And I think that's how we discovered these various deaths as we were crafting
And
them.
well, the way we look at it is death is ennobling. And when you're a hero, your job is to sacrifice yourself for the greater good no matter what.
One of the great creative upsides of Endgame for Joe and I was, like every single Marvel movie, we've always been thinking about the future, meaning where do these stories go? Where do these characters go? When we did Endgame, we didn't think about the future at all. Like our job was simply to come up with the most satisfying conclusion we could. And so we kind of just laid it there.
It was
Yeah.
Robert's son who used to say that to him.
Exactly, and Joe and I have a highly collaborative process. We work as a team. We love working with actors. And Robert is one of those actors who has a brilliant story mind, and he has a capacity as a filmmaker that goes beyond just acting. So we spend a lot of time talking with him about the character, about the story. And I think it was just in one of those conversations, he kind of randomly brought it up. And as soon as he said it, we're like, oh,
Well, it's
we
gotta be
have
in
to
the movie.
use that. It's amazing.
And then I don't think we came up with the idea to use it later, to wrap around the film when he's a hologram, till when we're in post, I think.
Yeah. It was actually a perfect way to camouflage a funeral because people dress very similarly for both things. So in the costume department, when the actors were getting fit for formal dark clothes, it could plausibly be for a wedding. And a gathering of that many characters together in one place could plausibly be for a wedding. So it just seemed like the perfect camouflage for the funeral.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you're trying to pull that big of a cast together, there's agents and managers and hair and
Yeah.
makeup. There's a massive collection of people that could give something away. So unfortunately, you have to pull them there under false pretenses. And then when they're there, they're all actors. You say, listen, here's what's really going on. And they say, that's sad. And okay, we got it. And
then we go action. The whole idea of killing Thanos that early in the film sort of came out of just story sessions, and now that he was dead, where would we go with the storytelling? This opportunity to sort of jump into everybody's futures and see 5 years down the road how this is weighing on them, how the new reality that Thanos has created is weighing on them. It just seemed all very exciting on a storytelling level.
Fargo season 1 had an incredible time jump near the end of the season. It was very unsettling in a great way because I have no idea where this is going now. And I think that really inspired the time jump in this movie. We wanted to do something that unsettled the audience. And in that moment when you're watching it, you go, I have no idea where they're going to go with this.
We're always looking for ways to keep these characters fresh and surprising to audiences. So, when you jump 5 years forward, it's like, where are they at? What have they been doing for the past 5 years? It's like you're re-meeting them again in a new form. When we were prepping the film and developing the film, it was certainly one of our favorite things that we were doing in the movie. Our sort of creative process is like, how do we subvert things? How do we find ways to twist things and run against expectations? And the ability to take this god, who physically looks like a god too, in terms of human beauty, and then sort of subvert that and turn that into something real and relatable and vulnerable, and that was coming from a source of inner pain. And that's what we're always looking for, is the humanity in these characters. And it seemed like a very powerful way to access towards humanity. It is very funny, certainly, on one level, but it's also very
tragic,
emotional,
yeah.
and it has an amazing human texture to it.
We just started asking logical questions because it could have been either of them. They're both heroes, and they would both sacrifice their life in a heartbeat. When you go, okay, they're going to fight each other for the right to jump off of a cliff to kill themselves, who's going to win in a fight? well, Black Widow's always going to win in a fight because we know from Avengers she's a better fighter. And ultimately, too, it felt very satisfying just for her arc.
I mean, really what's guiding us is the character arcs. You know, where do we want to take these characters in the storytelling? And I think that's what drove that choice, which is Black Widow began as an orphan. She was a part of a surrogate family that she didn't feel connected to and was using her. She had the good fortune of discovering the Avengers, HAWKEYE sort of sparing her life and bringing her into the Avengers. Then she found a new family, and that family became very important to her. And she dedicated herself to preserving that family and holding it together. And that's what she's doing in Endgame. And it's like, we just felt like that was the most satisfying end of her arc, that she would be willing, in order to maintain this family that she loves, she has to actually sacrifice herself for that. And it seemed very noble. We thought seriously about it because of the history with the comics, but it was pretty clear in the MCU which way we were going to go. I mean, Sam had such a strong connection with Cap. You know, their backgrounds, their military backgrounds, their sort of their humility, their ability to focus on the service. They felt very connected on that level. It felt like you could trust Sam. Even though he and Bucky are best friends, it felt like he could ultimately trust Sam more.
That's right.
That's a good question. We'll have to ask
think
Anthony
Mackie would love
that question.
Yeah. We may have started that
Yeah,
conspiracy.
we subscribe to that theory.
Okay, so
Or
explain.
like Joe said, yeah.
I mean, that
may
we-
have even originated it.
I mean, that's the, I mean, I guess, I don't know, is it conspiracy theory if the
if you
actual
say it,
directors and writers
canon.
say that
It's
that's
canon then. It's
Right?
canon.
It's canon.
I know. I think we're reaching that point in the universe where like narrative now belongs to everyone.
I mean, you
And,
can go back and see Cap actually move. There was movement there.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
nobody else can do that.
We knew that he was going to wield the hammer. We just wanted to figure out the best way to reveal it.
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of different constructions there. There was one where you actually could see him picking it up. There was one where it's just the hammer. And we liked hiding the ball on it and found that it was a little bit more dramatic to reveal him in the moment when the hammer came back to him. We did that big camera push into him. These battles take a long time. They take, honestly, years. They take, but we could spend 2 years trying to figure out one of those battle sequences. And a lot of times we get a good sense of what we want it to be and a shape of it, and then we mold it some more in the edit room, and we're using storyboards and pre-visualization to, illustrate what that is. We get music in, it starts to change it. And then what's great about Marvel is they're very iterative, and I think this is really the secret sauce of why their movies are so good, is that they continue to evolve the film, even in post, and the famous reshoots that Marvel does. You always have the opportunity to make it better. And so we'll get a shape of what the battle is and then come up with new ideas, come up with new previs, and then we'll go out and shoot the elements to make it work the way that we want it to work.
It's really hard to say. Like, sometimes you have to go shot by shot to describe it because it change. Sometimes there's two versions of something, and sometimes we'll rely on one version for certain shots and another version for the other shot. But they're quantum suits that they travel back in time, and those were entirely CG.
Thor has CG elements to him.
Yeah.
Sometimes his arms, Chiclets and his cape.
Yeah.
Spider-Man CG. Tony,
Iron Man
obviously,
and War Machine, yeah.
Winter Soldier's arm.
Yeah, it's a combination, his arm,
Yeah.
yes.
When they're all charging, we only had certain members of the cast in that. Anyone who's actually physically running on the ground who's not CG was there. Anyone who's in the air was not there. Those are elements that we'll put in later. So we had.
I think the largest collection we had was for Tony's funeral, the largest collection of actors.
That and when Cap catches the hammer and says Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That big
That
shot
moment
going
too,
down.
yeah.
They were all there for that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the most
Yeah.
special part of it for us.
Sure. Yeah,
The reason we
I mean-
make these movies are for the fans because we want to give them the same experiences that we had growing up and the same emotional connection to material that we felt when we saw Indiana Jones or Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back. And we actually snuck into a theater opening night in Westwood, and it was an amazing experience. As a filmmaker, you rarely get something where people respond that dramatically, that intensely, with that much vocalization to something that you do, and that was special.
Am I in a movie theater or am I at a rock concert? That's just like, it's so rare that a theater sounds like that, and it's really
We thought that
thrilling.
we were going to have to call the paramedics for the poor kid behind us
Yeah.
at the Tony Stark moment. He was hyperventilating, and,